The NHL and the NHLPA have developed a program to implement the use of designated spotters who will provide the club medical staff with an extra set of eyes to identify whether a player is exhibiting signs of a possible concussion. The purpose of this video is to acquaint you with the key aspects of this program, identify the visible signs of concussion, provide video examples of the signs, and describe the communication process between designated spotters and club medical staffs.
The NHL and NHLPA have developed a concussion protocol that relies on early identification and evaluation of possible concussions. An important component of this protocol is a specific role for league spotters, whose primary responsibility is to alert club medical staff if they observe a visible sign that suggests a possible concussion. While the use of league spotters is central to early identification, the identification of a possible concussion remains a club responsibility, including club medical staff, coaching staff, and management as well. Please note that club medical personnel need not wait for a call from the league spotter before identifying and/or removing players who require an acute evaluation for possible concussion. Due to their unique vantage point, on-ice game officials are also important in detecting possible concussions. The video that follows is for all of you, medical staff, coaches, management, officials, and league spotters. Please pay attention as we review the visible signs of concussion, the different types of league spotters and their roles, how league spotters will communicate with each other and their medical staffs, and the roles that game officials play in the detection of possible concussions. What are the visible signs of concussion? The visible signs of concussion have been developed as a signal to make us aware that a player may be exhibiting on-ice behaviors that may suggest a concussion has occurred. These visible signs include lying motionless on the ice, motor incoordination or balance problems, blank or vacant look, slow to get up, clutching of the head. The visible signs are divided into two categories, those that lead to a mandatory evaluation and those that may lead to an evaluation based on medical judgment, which we will refer to as discretionary signs. Signs that require immediate removal from play for a mandatory evaluation are lying motionless on the ice, motor incoordination or balance problems, and a blank or vacant look. Let's review some video examples for each of these signs. Lying motionless on the ice, mandatory evaluation.
On this play, Hurricane player number 19 cuts across the middle of the ice, where he is hit with the shoulder to the head. He remains motionless on the ice after the hit. Here, Red Wings goaltender number 35 is hit in the head by an opposing player's knee. He remains on the ice, unmoving, despite the continued movement of the puck.
Motor incoordination or balance problems, mandatory evaluation.
Avalanche player number 40 receives an open ice hit from an opposing player. He shows signs of motor incoordination as he returns to the bench. After an open ice body check, Jets player number 8 attempts to stand up, but falls back to the ice, showing signs of balance problems. Here, New York Ranger player number 13 receives a body check from an opposing player. He exhibits motor incoordination trying to get up. On this play, after a collision with an opposing player, Blues player number 42 falls down and his head hits the ice. He shows signs of motor incoordination as he attempts to get back to his feet.
Blank or vacant look, mandatory evaluation.
In this clip, Golden Knights player number 18 is hit in the head with an opposing player's elbow. He struggles off the ice and appears to have a blank or vacant look while sitting on the bench.
A blank or vacant look is generally difficult to capture on video, but those who are close to the players, such as on-ice officials or medical and coaching staff on the bench, may more readily observe this sign. There are two other signs that may require removal of a player for mandatory evaluation depending on the mechanism of injury. These two signs are slow to get up and clutching of the head. Slow to get up is observed when a player is slower to get to his feet than would be typical or expected. For clutching of the head, the player must grab his head or face with one or both hands. The clutching must be immediate, sustained and related to the blow, as opposed to removed or more distant in time. Slow to get up or grabbing the head or face after a stick to the head or face as the mechanism of injury is only considered slow to get up or clutching of the head following a cross-check to the head. If clutching of the head or being slow to get up occur after any of the following three mechanisms, then an evaluation is required. A blow to the player's head or upper torso by another player's shoulder, the player's head has contact with the ice, or the player is punched in the head by an ungloved fist. Let's review some video examples for each of these mechanisms. Slow to get up following shoulder hit to the head or upper torso.
Hurricanes player number 24 is hit with the shoulder to the upper torso and remains down on the ice before slowly returning to his feet. Sharks player number 39 receives a hit to the head from an opposing player's shoulder. He stays down on the ice for an extended period of time and is slow to get back to his feet. Finally, Flyers goaltender number 35 goes behind the net to play the puck, where he is struck in the head by a teammate's shoulder. He is slow to get back to his feet.
Slow to get up following head contact with the ice.
Here, Maple Leaf player number 56 receives a body check along the boards, causing him to fall and hit his head on the ice. He is then slow to get up. Blackhawks player number 20 receives a body check from an opposing player, causing him to hit his head on the ice. He is slow to get back to his feet.
Slow to get up following a punch to the head.
Capitals player number 56 is punched in the head, causing him to strike his head on the ice, and is slow to get up.
Clutching of the head following shoulder hit to the head or upper torso.
Maple Leaf player number 9 is struck with a hit to the head by an opposing player. As a result, he clutches his head with his hands. On this play, Blues player number 10 receives a hit to the head or upper torso along the boards and clutches his head on his way to the ice.
Clutching of the head following head contact with the ice.
On this play, Penguins player number 17 delivers a hit in the corner and is knocked down from the impact, causing him to hit his head on the ice. He then clutches his head.
If, however, a player is slow to get up or clutches his head after a mechanism other than those just described, then the evaluation is discretionary. Club medical staff shall use their medical judgment to determine whether to remove a player for an acute evaluation. Here are some examples of slow to get up and clutching of the head that are caused by mechanisms which lead to a discretionary evaluation. Slow to get up.
On this play, Avalanche player number 7 is struck with an elbow to the head. He is then slow to get up and also clutches his head.
Clutching of the head. Discretionary evaluation.
Penguins player number 13 is struck with an elbow to the head. He clutches his head as he falls to the ice. Sharks player number 48 receives a cross-check to the head by another player. As a result, he immediately clutches his head with his hands.
Let's recap. Any time following a direct or indirect hit to the head that a player lies motionless on the ice, has motor incoordination or balance problems, or has a blank or vacant look, it is mandatory that he be removed from the game for an acute evaluation. Also, if a player is slow to get up or clutches his head following a blow to the player's head or upper torso by another player's shoulder, after his head has hit the ice, or after he has been punched in the head by an ungloved fist, then removal and evaluation is mandatory. If, however, he clutches his head or is slow to get up after a hit to the head and none of the mandatory mechanisms occurred, club medical staff shall use their medical judgment to determine whether to remove a player for an acute evaluation. Frequently in the game, there are big hits, including hits to the head, that do not result in any visible signs as defined under the protocol. Under this protocol, these hits do not result in intervention by the league spotters. However, club medical personnel will still exercise their judgment and remove a player for an evaluation if he has exhibited any other signs, symptoms, or behavior that leads to a suspicion of possible concussion. Here are some examples.
Player number 36 receives an open ice body check that results in an indirect blow to the head. While falling to the ice, his head strikes the ice surface. After his head hits the ice, he gets up without hesitation and immediately rejoins the play. He does not demonstrate any visible signs as articulated in the NHL Concussion Evaluation and Management Protocol. However, club medical personnel will still exercise their professional judgment in these events. Player number 28 receives a shoulder check that knocks his helmet off. He loses his stick, hits his head against the boards, and falls to the ice. He quickly gets back up, picks up his stick, and continues on with the play. He does not demonstrate any visible signs as articulated in the NHL Concussion Evaluation and Management Protocol. However, club medical personnel will still exercise their professional judgment in these events.
Who are the spotters? There are two types of league spotters: Central League spotters and in-arena league spotters. The Central League spotters are certified athletic trainers with experience in hockey who will watch from the NHL office via live game broadcasts using multiple feeds. The Central League spotters will review each event in which a visible sign may be suspected and make the determination whether a visible sign or mechanism of injury has occurred. In-arena league spotters will be off-ice officials who will observe games live in the arena. If an in-arena spotter observes a visible sign, they shall communicate their observations to the Central League spotter. As long as there is video, the Central League spotter serves as the decision maker. The Central League spotter is responsible for determining whether a visible sign or mechanism of injury has occurred. Mandatory means mandatory. If the Central League spotter determines that a mandatory evaluation is warranted, the club must remove and evaluate the player. Mandatory means mandatory. Communications. We have now covered the visible signs, who the spotters are, and what roles they play. It now becomes important to discuss how spotters communicate with each other and with the club medical staffs. In-arena spotters play a critical role by viewing live play. If in-arena spotters observe any hit in which they observe a visible sign or any hit they feel requires further and more careful review, they should promptly contact the Central League spotter via the intercom system and report what they observed. The Central League spotter will then determine whether the visible sign and mechanism of injury has occurred, and the league spotters will communicate this information to club medical staff. Communication style. Things happen very quickly during a live hockey game. Succinct communication between the league spotter and club medical staff is very important. The following phrasing should be used. A league spotter's communication with club medical staff should be limited to player number, visible sign or signs observed, the mechanism of injury if relevant, and whether an evaluation is mandatory or discretionary. Let's review 3 of the video clips we saw earlier and apply this communication to them.
Number 20, slow to get up, head hits the ice, mandatory. Number 8, motor in coordination, mandatory. Number 7, slow to get up and clutch his head, discretionary.
Club medical staff should repeat back to confirm what they heard from the spotter. Logging of visible signs. Both the Central League spotter and in-arena spotter are required to independently record any visible signs that are observed. Spotters shall enter their observations into the logging app as soon as possible after the club has been contacted. Officials have a unique vantage point and play a key role in the identification of visible signs. If an official observes a visible sign, he is to report it to the club medical staff as soon as possible. If the official observes a player who is lying motionless, has motor incoordination or balance problems, or a blank or vacant look after a direct or indirect blow to the head, the official shall report it to the club medical staff, and that player shall be removed from the playing environment and evaluated according to the protocol, irrespective of whether the sign was reported by the Central League spotter. If the official observes any of these three visible signs after a player is punched in the head or face by an ungloved fist during a fight, the official shall bring the player to the club medical personnel for an immediate acute evaluation prior to the player serving a penalty in the penalty box. This same process shall occur if the official is notified that the league spotter has determined that a mandatory evaluation is warranted, or the club medical personnel have advised that an evaluation shall occur. In addition, the officials will be notified via the scorer's table if a Central League spotter has communicated to the club medical staff that a mandatory evaluation is required, but the player in question continues to play. In such cases, the officials shall cause the removal of the player from play for an evaluation by club medical staff.
Please contact Ruben Echemendia if you have any questions regarding your role as a designated spotter. Thank you for your assistance in connection with this important initiative.